right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to our show, Airmen Helping Airmen podcast. I got a very special guest here with me today who happens to be not only a great friend, but he was or is a great colleague who helped me through my time as a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. We became very, very close, spending tons of time together, not only in the Pentagon, but out on the road as we both were dedicated on helping airmen and their families across the force. So I'm just really, really thrilled. Of course, I'm retired now and he's still serving, but I'm thrilled to have with us today the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force, Chief Master Sergeant Roger Toby Towberman. Toby, welcome to the show, my brother.
What's happening? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I like your little office. I'm kind of walking through all of your decorative choices. Well, I gotta get me that Muhammad Ali portrait. I like that.
I have to get you one, man. Of course, that's one of my heroes, and the books. That's kind of an ode to you, my man. You're one of the ones that really, really. I think I thought I was an avid reader until I met you, and then I just got to reading on steroids, kind of just like you do. So.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm not gonna take credit, but I do. Yeah, I appreciate everything I see. So yeah, it's great to see you, man. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, let me say this before we get started, man. Let's make a commitment because we've been saying this for a long time, but we got to do better, right? We got to do better at catching up and spending time together, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's one lesson, right? Like you can't help anybody if you lose touch with your friends. So we got to be better.
All right. Well, hey, man, I know our audience is excited to hear from you and hear about, everything that's going on with the Space Force. But let's kind of start with a quick intro and tell everybody who you are. You're pretty famous, across the Air Force and certainly across the Space Force. But, give us a little bit of background, man, who you are, how'd you end up in this job? And then we can maybe go into how you like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways, I don't know how I ended up in this job. I'm just grew up in a little town in Wisconsin, little country boy, and kind of explored a lot of dead ends that I created for myself in my life, and then found out through an aptitude test that the Air Force thought I could learn foreign languages. I had a small debate over that reality with my recruiter over 30 years ago because I didn't think he knew what he was talking about. And then he said, "Hey, we'll give you $2,000 if you come in and do this." And so I stopped debating, and it really, as all the military services do, I was offered this opportunity to kind of hit a reset button on my entire life and be part of something that was bigger than me and also different than anything that I'd ever thought about, anything I'd ever considered, and allow me to be somebody different. And it really, I don't know that I really understood that opportunity for many years. But for sure, as I look back on it, that's what this is all about. It's this chance to just say, okay, I'm gonna go in this direction. I'm gonna be this kind of person. So I grew up as an airborne linguist. I was a ground linguist for a while, a Chinese Mandarin, and I learned Albanian in the late 90s and started flying. A lot of deployments, a lot of time spent away from home, a lot of work. I would end up getting promoted and having a pretty good Air Force career. I pinned on chief in 2009, so it's been a long time. Squadron, group, wing, nav, MAGCOM, COCOM. Worked for the assistant secretary, like you talked about. Got to spend all that time with you in the Pentagon, and hopefully doing good things and trying to follow our hearts and do what we knew to be right, and learned a lot along the way, a lot of stuff along the way. In particular, kind of towards the end there, kind of learning how the building worked, how processes worked, how things really happen, and learn, maybe learn to appreciate how much work. Like, it's not just enough to know the right thing to do. You've got to know all the mechanics that go into making the right thing to do happen. And I know, as a young man that complained a lot to my leadership, complained a lot to every chief that came and visited me about everything that was broken. I'm not sure I understood the work that went into fixing things, but got to study at the feet of an expert on that, and so I think when the call came, hopefully I was built and ready, and I've been invested in. Hopefully when I don't let anybody down.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting choice of words, the mechanics of how the building works, right? Kind of a synonym for bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I thought you did a great job, man, when you were in the building at SAF-MR, and I thought General Raymond made an excellent choice selecting you as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. And you did some double duty for a while. Tell us about your time as the SEL for Space Command, which is the combatant command.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really part of the same story, right? As space became increasingly important to our nation, to our military, something had to change, and it was actually as far back as 2001 that the first bipartisan committee recommended that the Department of Defense look at creating a new military service. So fast forward many years and many things happening, in particular some interesting developments in some of our key adversaries, and it became really apparent that we needed to do something. In fact, we needed to do two things. We needed to improve our warfighting in space so that we could continue to keep our advantage, and we needed to improve the way that we organize, train, and equip those warfighters, right? Like, both of those things had to happen. So the first thing that was addressed was the warfighting, and that's where U.S. Space Command came in. And super cool honor to be there and get to stand up the command with General Raymond and really focus on warfighting and focus on moving fast and putting together a staff and a team, complete with a joint task force, complete with all of the normal work that goes into creating or running a combat command while you're creating it. It was interesting. It was really cool. The importance of that, I think, can't be understated, and the importance of that has not decreased. It's only gotten bigger. And so while we did all that and we stood up this geographic combat command, I think that's an important piece too, that we remember that U.S. Space Command is a geographic command, not a functional command. That everything from 100 kilometers and up into forever is their responsibility. So it's a big responsibility, and it's not just a supporting command, but also a supported command. So there will be times, hopefully there won't be times of conflict, but if there's times of conflict, there are instances where we've got a plan to support U.S. Space Command, not just for the rest of us to expect to be supported by. That was a sort of a philosophical shift as well. So to be right there in the middle of all that was really cool. And then along came the NDAA and December 20th of 2019, and then the stand up of the Space Force, and then that hat goes on. And so the Space Force really focused on, so how do we supply those warfighters, not just to U.S. Space Command, although that's the primary combatant command, but across, how do we build joint smart space warfighters? How do we recruit them? How do we retain them? How do we train them? exercise and present them. And so that's kind of the two different organizations juxtaposed. I was, I guess we'll say, lucky enough to wear both those hats simultaneously. It was something that was really bittersweet because I, in some ways, couldn't wait. I had to take off that hat. We just couldn't do everything that we needed to and try to do both things at once. At the same time, I think you'd agree, if I had to pick between fighting war and doing paperwork, I know which one I'd always pick. So it was a little sad to let go of that hat, but it was something that we needed to do. So actually, almost a year ago now, get to walk away from that, which was great. And Master Gun's doing a fantastic job. I know, obviously, we both know him too. So he's doing a great job there. They're doing great things in U.S. Space Command. I really appreciate them having that focus so that I can focus on everything that we're doing.
Yeah, man, good stuff. I know you don't think about it now. I get to think about it, and there's probably at least a historian somewhere thinking about that. Man, this is historic, right? You set up. Not only did you set up a brand new service as well as a brand new geographic combatant command, but you are the first Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. So, at some point, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you're going to be heralded, much like Paul Airy was, or really is for us in the Air Force. Have you thought much about history? I know you are.
Here's the thing. I'll be honest. I think a couple things. Well, one, what I always say, kind of flippantly, someone will say, "What's it like being the first?" I said, "Well, most days it's a lot like work. Like there's a lot of stuff to do. We got a lot going on. We're really, really busy, and so most days it's just a lot like work, like really, really hard work."
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, I really mean it when I say that if the only thing someone can say about me when I'm gone is I was the first, then I didn't do it right. I think that when the thing that defines you is the opportunity that found you and not what you did with that opportunity, then you've not done enough. And so what I really hope is that while I guess I'll always have that moniker, I'll always be the first, I hope that's not the story, right? Like I hope that's not what people say. I hope that's not what we all collectively remember. I hope we remember the things that we did, the things that we put into place, the difference that we made in the lives of human beings and the difference that we made in the Department of Defense and for the nation. I really hope that's the long text, that little bumper sticker. Yeah, it's true. I hope that's not the main talking points.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I'd say is that it at the same time, it's not lost on me, on any of us, right? Like we are in this special place in history. And so I do remind the team, my internal small team and the larger team, and I remind myself that every once in a while, no matter how busy we are, we do need to kind of just stop and be present right here where we're at and take it in and remember. I remember, I don't know if you remember, we were there together. Remember the night that they signed the NDA and stood up the Space Force, right? And we're sitting there in the bleachers to the side of the stage, and General Raymond's on the stage. You remember that. But I remember the really terrible music that they were playing. Do you remember the terrible music that they were playing? Like, there's little things like that you're like, man, how did they come up with like Carl Carlton back to back with Fleetwood Mac? Like, who decided that was the soundtrack before the NDAA? Like, who decided that? Like, where did this come from? Those are, I think, the kind of things that, I hope one day. I remember we went to the embassy suites, after that, and we toasted with paper cups because all we had were paper cups, right? Like our celebration. on our birthday was with paper cups. And I think I'll always, at all the Space Force birthdays, as long as I live, like I'll be looking to toast, with a paper cup for that reason. And so it's not lost on us. And I do kind of hope that we're all taking a little bit of time to breathe it in and to be present for the little things and to remember, the small stuff and the details that I think one day will make us smile.
Yeah, no, man. I'm not really that concerned about people only remembering you as the first, because I've seen your work firsthand, and I know what you can do, and I know the things that you've been doing and the impact that you've been making for the Space Force. So no issues there. But I'll be looking for you in the history books, my man.
Yeah,
hey,
thanks.
you also mentioned this kind of back and forth you had with your recruiter when you were first about to join. Tell me, what advice would you give to a young high school student, a young college graduate, or a young enlisted airman who's thinking about joining or transitioning to the Space Force?
Yeah. So, yeah. By the way, I remember my recruiter's name was Brian Booth. If anybody out there remembers old Sergeant Booth and wants to put him in touch with me, I'd love to give him a coin and tell him that maybe he got something right. But yeah. So I think that first and foremost, I think I would tell any young person in America that I believe in them. I think there's too many folks, as old as we are, that for whatever reason have adopted this narrative that oh, they're this or they're that or whatever. And I would say, man, aren't we to a point? Well, haven't we learned this lesson by now that they are us and they will be better than we probably think they will be? And so I think that's the first thing I would say is I believe in you. I believe in the talent. I believe in the selflessness. I see it in young people. I think it's just as present as it ever has been. And I think that that there are few things kind of more noble and more pure and more ancient than serving your nation. And so I think to even consider serving in uniform for your country in any of the services is such a cool thing. And I think I just probably just thank them for being in that place, right? Regardless of how they went forward. From a Space Force perspective, I just try to be honest. I don't know that it's going to be, I know that it's not going to be for everyone. There's a lot of stuff that we still don't know, that we still haven't figured out. There's a lot of aspirations we have that we don't quite know how we're going to get there. I've said many times, I've compared us to a startup company. I think we've got a great philosophy. I think we've got a great vision. We've got a lot of belief in ourselves. We've got a lot of really talented people. And all of those things make me 100% certain that that we're going to get where we want to go. I can't judge anybody for not being 100% certain along with me, right? Like that's everybody has to make their own choice. And so I think that it's important that we're honest about that, so that anybody that signs up for the team understands the risk, understands the expectations, and knows that they're signing up to be part of their own future, that we're going to lean on them to help us figure this out. And that if what they want is a checklist of do these things and this will be the outcome, that's not going to happen in the Space Force. And so I think that's important. And I think I'll tell them that we feel like our size gives us a bit of an opportunity that a larger organization doesn't have to invest in them as individuals, to consider their loved ones, to consider their kind of holistic personality and this composite of all the things that make you up as a human being. That we feel we can look at that with a degree of intimacy that larger organizations can't. We feel like we can account for it. and that we can spend this career, whether it's 4 years or 40 years, of investing in them and doing what we can to maximize the human being, to maximize everything that they're supposed to be. And I really, I'd rather, and I know this won't surprise you, I'd rather play those sort of infinite games. Like, let's talk about maximizing your potential. Let's not talk about making you this much money or getting you promoted on this timeline or getting you this many assignments. Those types of goals, I think, are easy to promise, and sometimes they're easy to deliver. They're certainly easy to count, but I'm not sure that they are the enduring kind of growth and the enduring, lasting journey that we want for guardians and that we want for ourselves. So I think most of my message will continue to be around sort of these long games and more of this sort of kind of limitless ideas, and not so much the specific stuff. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I tell you, I'm one of your biggest fans and one of your biggest recruiters for the Space Force. So when all my friends tell me they got kids that are thinking about joining the Air Force, I always direct them to, hey man, make sure you check out the Space Force and see if that's a good fit for your kid. Let's go back to your Air Force career. So you spent you and I came in right around the same time, I think, and so almost 30 years or so in the Air Force, and now you got a couple of years under your belt in the Space Force. Tell me about what's been hard for you over your entire career, man, and what strategies did you employ to get through the tough times?
Man, oh man, I think I was always my problem. The biggest struggles I had. How do we say it? The common thread in all my challenges is me. I think I have no idea how I managed to stay out of my way enough to continue to serve, especially as a young airman. I know I was a challenge. I was really, really lucky to have great supervisors and great leaders that took care of me, that were patient and understanding and always allowed me to kind of be me without allowing me to be me too much. And over time, sort of figure that out and grow up and mature and got some really good mentoring and really good coaching along the way. As I got older, I think, maybe now I think there's strategy. I think early on, it was luck. I mean, it really was. It was luck that I made it at all. And so I think now I'm a lot more deliberate. I'm a lot more deliberate about the way that I live my life, about the way that I take care of my body, of my mind, which are the same thing. I think that's maybe, strategy number one, is to remember that this isn't hocus pocus going on up here. It's chemicals, it's hormones, it's electricity, and it's a very physical thing, your brain. And if you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not eating right, or you're not unplugging, if you're not hydrating, like you're not setting yourself up mentally for success. And so I think I do really try to prioritize to my health, to my fitness across. I think one thing I don't see us walking away from in the Space Force, I love the Air Force Comprehensive Airman Fitness Model. I love all four of those domains. I think they're all four critical. And so I really do just try to make sure, right? Like, am I finding harmony in my life? Am I taking time to remind the people I care about that I care about them? Am I pausing to thank my teammates? Am I taking care of my body? Am I getting enough sleep? That's so important that you get enough sleep. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Honestly, man, like early on, I was lucky. I'm like, don't anybody use my career as a blueprint. Like it's no way. Like that's not, it's not a swing to emulate, right? Like no coaches should look at me and go, oh, do what he did. Like, no way. I was a train wreck.
Well, in a roundabout way, man, I think it's actually the perfect blueprint. I think my career and your career are very, very similar. Where we started off kind of rocky and finished fairly strong. And I know you're still finishing, but I actually think it's the perfect blueprint because I think most people look at a guy like yourself and think like, wow, man, this guy must have had a perfect career. He's always done everything right. And so when they're going through their struggles, when they're having their tough times, being able to look back and say, man, Toby overcame this, and he's still, overcoming obstacles and challenges. And, one of the ways that he's doing it today is by, and I preached this for a long time. We used to talk about it all the time, putting your mask on first, right?
Yeah.
Taking care of your mind and your body. I'm still working on that sleep thing, man. I really, really applaud you for, being able to do that, get full 8-10 hours of sleep every night.
I'll tell you, when I travel, sometimes there's exceptions when I travel because time zones and all that kind of stuff and hard schedules. But I have not, except for traveling, and then even when I travel, not very often, but there are times I haven't used an alarm clock to wake up now in years.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, it is an absolute game changer to go, wait a minute, I'm sleepy, I'm going to bed. And when I wake up, then I'll wake up. And at least for me, in relatively short amount of time of like listening to your own kind of rhythm, your diurnal rhythm, you'll get enough sleep. Like I know some people are like, well, I'll wake up and I won't be able to go back to sleep. Yeah, but you can, if you focus on it, if you prioritize the sleep hygiene, you really can, I think, dial it in. We'll have to have a sleeping contest. Let's see. We'll teach you how to do it. But yeah, and you're right. Like so, sort of like my entire life, I always say, like I wouldn't change anything about my life. It's made me who I am. You and I talk about this often. The no regrets kind of mentality. At the same time, I don't know that I would wish my life, like I wouldn't wish my life on my children, but I wouldn't change my life, that built me. And so I do think, yeah. And the one thing on top of what you said, I'm very proud of the fact that I consistently get feedback that says that I'm the same person that I was. You're the same person I knew 15 years ago. You're the same person I knew 10 years ago. I think if there's one thing that I hope people always see and can learn from my example is you don't have to trade in who you are to be successful. And if somebody's, and this is at work, at home, in your marriage, if someone's trying to make you be something different to be successful, then you don't need to be successful in their eyes. Like you need to do something else. Like that's not don't improve. That's like trade in who you are, right? Like if you can't be you, then you need to do something else. Like you deserve to do something else.
Yeah. Hey man, so what about you think you'll be the SEAC someday? You just keep going. You like to energize money, man. You just going and going and going and going.
I was thinking that's funny because when you were saying that earlier, you pointed out that we kind of came in at the same time, and I'm like, yeah. So who's more successful? Like you over here growing a goatee, and I'm still working. Like I'm not sure. This is this. I think I lost. I think I lost this contest, dude. I'll tell you. I am so happy and so proud. And so honored to have this responsibility, and I'm just hoping I get to the finish line without messing it up, and then I'm going fishing.
Yeah, I expected you to say that. So when you see that, man, we'll do this again. We'll have a whole nother.
Oh, Oh my gosh! Don't
Hey,
start.
we always talked about, man, when we were doing this together, balance, and then we called it harmony. I know you got a beautiful wife, Rachel. You got a couple of cats that part of the family. How especially in this new role with so much stuff that you're responsible for, how are you finding balance? Other than getting the right amount of sleep, and you've always taken care of your body and ate healthy and whatnot. What are you doing to keep that harmony in your life?
Yeah, so it's kind of little things. It's hard, right? Rich and I go for a walk just about every single night. We go for a walk around Andrews. It's important to us. As little, sometimes it's 45 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half. But we went out and bought fancy umbrellas, so if it's raining, we can still go for a walk. And it matters, right? Like I leave my phone sitting at home and go for a walk with my wife, and that might be the only thing I get to do in a day with her, which is why I think we stopped saying balance and started saying harmony. That's enough to remain in harmony, right? Like the quality of that thing and that conversation and that fresh air, and so depending on the day, sometimes a little vitamin D or whatever, it really matters. I think we try to be as open and communicative as possible. It's hard enough to have challenges or have frustrations. They're doubly hard if you have to carry them alone. And so try to be sort of as communicative as possible and honest, so that I'm not carrying around anything that I don't have to carry around, right? And I think we're really, especially like I'm just really lucky because Ray and I just have we got a good thing, and we really do. I mean, I know it's kind of cliche, but we really are best friends, and so that makes it easier. I'm not as close, and COVID has been a challenge, right? Not as close with my my grown sons, as I want to be. I'm hoping as we're getting masks off and starting to move around a little bit, that spend a little bit of more time with them. But yeah, I mean, it's the little things. It's the little things.
Yeah, man. I think, and I've always, applauded you for being such a good role model, not just for the young service members, but I thought you were an excellent role model for your colleagues, all of us, the fellow chiefs who are out hooting and hollering and hanging out and stuff, and you were always taking care of business, man, taking care of your body, making sure you got the right amount of sleep, eating healthy, and like I said, I just learned a ton from you, man. So I appreciate everything you did for me. I appreciate your friendship and all the great talks and discussions that we had. And like I said, one of the things that I took from you is the power of moments, which is one of the books that I can't remember if you recommended to me or if we read around the same time, but I remember hearing you talk about some stuff from the book, and then quickly it became one of my favorites. But what do you read now, man? What's if you had 3 book recommendations to give to our audience, what would it be?
Yeah, so man, what am I reading now? I just finished a book, and for some reason I can't think. Oh, so Malcolm wrote a new book that was I thought really interesting, right? Obviously it's about the Air Force, and so I thought the Bomber Mafia is very interesting, and apropos to some of the things we're doing as we're starting trying to build our own culture and step away from the Air Force, and how do we do that, and also I think good reminders about hey, if I'm going to be a zealot, am I going to have blind spots and different things? I thought it was pretty well written, and in the audio version, get to listen to your old boss in the conversations and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was good. And I read a book called 9 Lies About Work that I thought was quite good, that Chief Amber Mitchell made me read. I always do what Chief Mitchell says.
He made me read it too, man. Same book.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. And every time someone asks me about books these days, I always bring up the Sneetches by Dr. Seuss. If you remember the old Sneetches story, that was where some of the Sneetches were born with stars, and then some of the Sneetches were born without stars, and the star Sneetches were the favorite ones, and then the ones that didn't have stars. And some dude comes along and invents a machine that starts painting stars on and taking stars off. And I think it's a really good lesson for 4-year-olds, that we all can remember that, that what we look like, that the stuff that we accumulate, that the status we have is all nonsense, right? And that the things that really matter are who we are inside, and how we take care of each other, and that by coveting stuff, you're really not setting yourself up for any long-term success anyway. And we should all value making a difference, right? Value changing the world.
Yeah. Hey, I got a book recommendation for you, man. It's called A More Beautiful Question.
A More Beautiful Question. I'm writing it down.
Warren Berger. A More Beautiful Question, yeah. And the reason that, and I actually thought about you as I was reading through it, because it's really about the power and importance of asking questions, of encouraging, our children to ask more questions, to challenge things, to whatnot. And that was one of the things I always remembered about you, man, is that you encouraged our young airmen to challenge the status quo, to not just settle. And when they ask questions, especially questions like why do we have to do this? You would entertain them and help them, shape the question and get it to a point where you and I could take it and actually do something with it. So again, that's one of the many things, man, I always appreciated about you. I think we had that in common in a sense, is that we always questioned the status quo and didn't settle for, hey, this is the way we've always done it, and that's just a great way to be.
Yeah, so we're talking about this, right? Like when you and I grew up, and then even older than us, like I remember, like if I wanted to answer a question that I didn't have an answer to, I got on my bicycle, I rode 4 miles into town, I went to the library, right? If it was open, I went to the card catalog, we go through the card catalog, I find what I need, I go find a book, and then I look up the answer. Like it was really hard to figure something out, right? And I think that if you grew up like that the cost, if you will, of asking questions was high, right? Like, wait a minute, you ask a question, that's a lot of work. Why would you ask me like you do all that work? And now fast forward to where every answer to every question, all the knowledge of mankind is in the palm of my hand. Mm-hmm. And so now as a young person, like there's no cost to asking a question. I'll just Google the answer. And I really think that even just the act of asking a question is just valued very, very differently generationally. And we can't judge that. I'm like, of course they're asking you, because they don't think it's a big deal to ask. Like they could Google, they could tweet the Queen of England. They can, like, why would they care about asking you a question? Like you can't just stand back and be mad at them about it, right? Like let them ask and help them answer. Oh, and by the way, if the answer to why is because I said so, that's not leading, right? Like if there's what I said the other day, if there's a nexus between your position and your influence, you don't actually have any influence, right? Like it can be do it because I said so. And so I appreciate that you say I entertain, their questions. I feel like, we're obligated, like we've got to listen to them, or we're going to all collectively go nowhere, because, man, questions are important. We should be questioning everything, especially these days. We should question everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got all crazy, got off on it. You knew that. You knew you're going to spin me up.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I just appreciate, all that you are to not just the Space Force, but, you've had a huge impact. As I look at I saw a picture the other day of a bunch of, Intel chiefs, and I'm like, man, yeah, Toby raised most of these young men and women, and they're all out in the Air Force doing really well, and they still look up to you, man, just like me and so many of the other folks across the force. So, let me say thanks, man. We're just about out of time, but I want to say thank you, brother, for mostly for your friendship. I love what you've done for the Air Force. I love what you're continuing to do for the Space Force. I still think you're going to be a SEAC, or you're going to find something else to do. You'll be 40 years in, and we'll be doing this, and I'll have a full gray beard by then. But I do really, really value more than any of that the friendship that we built over the years. And you don't find good friends that often, man. So again, let me say thanks, and then I'd like to give you the floor, man, for any final thoughts or comments that you might have for our airmen and your guardians.
Yeah, so thanks, man. It's always good to see you and talk to you, and you just say way too nice of things about me. I really appreciate it, and appreciate you. I think if we're talking about helping people, right? I think, as you said, we have to remember to put the mask on first. But we also have to remember that if we're really going to help people, it's got to be about helping people. Like, we have to value the difference that we can make in other people's lives. I think we get a little bogged down in stuff, in positions, in collecting all the Pokemon for our uniform, and really there's such incredible satisfaction and such joy and peace and fulfillment in helping other people and changing their lives. And I just think every one of us could probably do a little better than we're doing, and every one of us would find ourselves in a better place as we helped other people. So thanks for doing this podcast. Thanks, as always, for what you do and what you've done. Thanks for the help that you've given me. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's a good time.
Yeah, man. Again, thank you. And make sure you let all your guardians know, man, that the Air Force Aid Society is always here for them. So if you guys ever need anything, make sure that you reach out, and we'll find more ways to partner here. But all right, teammates, this has been the Airmen Helping Airmen podcast. I'm Wright, your CEO of the Air Force Aid Society. Man, what a fantastic opportunity for me to spend some time with a good friend and a great human being, Chief Roger Toby Towberman, the Chief Master Sergeant of the United States Space Force. So until next time, signing off here. You guys take care, and we'll see you around.